Very happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for joining us here on the WDW Fan Zone show. Tonight, I'm joined by John, Darlene, and I am Stuart. And Kurt may possibly join us soon. We're going to discuss the need for a non-DVC resort at Walt Disney World tonight. We know they're building a lot of DVC resorts. We know they make a lot of money off of, I guess it's their timeshare. It's not exactly a timeshare, but it's similar to a timeshare. But there is definitely a need for different types of resorts other than DVC resorts at Walt Disney World. And we're going to get into that a little bit. Now, both of you, John and Darlene, are DVC members.
Correct.
Right.
Now, there were different, I know there were studios. Did they go up to rooms that could seat 5, 6, 7 people?
Yeah. So some studios could actually, some studios could handle 3. Well, it depends on how small the kids are, but there's the studios, then 1 bedroom, then 2 bedroom, and then 3 bedroom grand villas.
Mm-hmm.
Studios are tight. They're bigger than a regular. So they can basically fit as many people as you could fit into a regular resort room, as far as how big your family is, how big your kids are if you've got kids. Now I forget. Now, Darlene, usually the studios have a queen size bed, don't they?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the fold out couches are a full size, and then most of the rooms that they've redone are now with a drop down, either from the ceiling or the wall or
under the TV, right?
Or the TV that you have a trundle bed. So
you can get 5 into some of them. Mm-hmm. Certainly, the other challenge you have is having enough bathroom space for 5 people at one time. Well, you don't have enough for 5 people.
That could be an issue. And the reason I wanted you to let our viewers and listeners know about that is because there is a difference from the regular room resorts. Unfortunately, outside of Art of Animation, Disney really does not accommodate larger. When I say larger families of more than 4.
You can certainly rent DVC properties from Disney.
Yes.
It's going to be pricier, but you can rent a 1 bedroom or a 2 bedroom unit. So you can get more than enough space for a family of 4 or 5, 6 and beyond, but you're going to pay for it, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem I think some people have is, I think what you're seeing here in Florida now is there are all these vacation rentals that are going up all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Because Disney has not addressed, and I want to say, I don't know how I can put this, but they haven't addressed the middle class when it comes to affordability at Walt Disney World. You're paying a lot for tickets to get into the park, and we won't go into all the extras you have to pay for once you get in the parks. And their regular resorts, whether it's a budget or or value resort they call it, or a moderate resort, which might be within someone's reach. If they have a family of 5, all of a sudden they've got to get 2 rooms. Now it's out of their reach. So they're going to the Holiday Inns, the Marriotts, other places or vacation rentals that are more affordable, but they're allowing, here's Kurt. They're allowing families that could become very immersed in everything going on at Disney miss out on things. And I think that's, and I know it's for their business purpose, but I think they're missing out, it's creating a better guest experience. And, maybe if they create a better guest experience by keeping people on property, they'll spend more money while they're there on property rather than letting them go off property to stay someplace else. And I think there is definitely a need for non-DVC resorts. And if people can afford them, great, go for it. Like you said, John, I think there's some
you can decrease the cost you pay to rent a DVC property if you go through a third party.
Correct.
You're going to pay a lot less than you do going going through Disney. However, the availability, it gets snatched up.
Correct.
There's a lot more demand for the rental of those properties than there is available property.
Yep.
Right.
By the way, we have Kurt joined us. He was having a little difficulty getting on.
Major
he's
technical
here now.
difficulties. Sorry.
So, how are you, Kurt?
Doing good now that I'm actually in here.
Good. Yeah. So we just started talking about the need for Disney to have non-DVC resorts or more of them.
More of them. What and so what do you think is needed more? Well, or would be wanted more from the guests, and would that be moderate or value or deluxe if Disney were to build additional property?
Go ahead, Darlene.
Okay. My cousin was here with her husband and 2 children, and then their friends were here with their daughter. And they were wishing for they stayed at a moderate, and they were wishing for a bigger room in the moderate.
Mm-hmm.
Something that would have slept, a family suite. And basically, we all know Lottie begs for that herself as well, who's one of our co-hosts. And she stays at moderates as well. So, and sometimes she stays at values.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think we would need, I think they should do another moderate with those and another value with that.
What I'd like to see them do, and I'm glad you said that because that's where I was going with this. What I think they can do is combine a moderate and value, not necessarily into one, but on the same property. They would share the same parking lot, have
maybe adjacent to each other.
Yep.
I mean, you kind of have that now in the Coronado Springs. You pretty much have a moderate and a deluxe in the same resort.
Mm-hmm.
The tower is,
Mm-hmm.
it's technically a part of a moderate, but it's more a deluxe experience.
Yeah. And I think
they designed the resorts when they were all built to sleep 4. There is one resort that will sleep 4.5. It's got a trundle bed in Riverside. So Port Orleans Riverside has a trundle bed in one section. That's it. That's the only place you could sleep a 5th person. And again, it's a trundle. It's got to be somebody small. It's not going to be a full-size person.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, Darlene would fit there. Stuart, you would not. Okay. It's not, they really do need, whether it's adding bunk beds and a little bit more square footage or whatever, they need to be able to sleep a family of 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not available unless they're going to stay at Fort Wilderness out in the log cabins. That's it. That's the only place you could go.
Yeah.
I was thinking that that's actually a location. We can talk about locations then, but I was thinking since they're not building that Reflections DVC property, that might be a location where you could build a moderate.
True.
And so, it's not easy access to the park. So, if you can walk to Magic Kingdom, it's going to be a deluxe resort. But if you did something in between Fort Wilderness and the Wilderness Lodge, you might be able to put a moderate in there.
Yeah.
It's got a deluxe resort view.
It does. Yeah. But I mean, Disney, if they can sell a deluxe resort out, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
But,
It's got the deluxe resort view, and it's a boat ride to the Magic Kingdom. It's not.
Well, I mean, Fort Wilderness is a boat ride to the Magic Kingdom too.
Something Kurt touched on. I just want to go back a couple of steps. Was that the rooms sleep 4 for the most part? But think about it. When Disney was building all these resorts, the average family was
3, 4.
kids. Right. It was the parents and 2 kids. It wasn't 5, 6. Like we see now on more than.
Well, there weren't as many families visiting Walt Disney World when it was built in 1971.
Right. That's true too.
Yeah, and I think in some respects the average family size was larger back then, but just the volume of guests.
The extended family size, but I think
the extended family.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think extended families and the nuclear family was larger back then. But I think it's the volume of guests that are pushing it up.
Yeah, I disagree with you there about the nuclear family, but I don't have any statistics to, bring up here. But I think what's going on now with all these, and the people that are buying these properties now and building all these vacation homes, they're corporations.
Mm-hmm.
They're just looking to make money. So it's just a matter of time before their prices skyrocket. And the people that could afford that are really left with no choice if they have a family of 5 or 6. It's either pay it or don't go. And I think Disney has a huge opportunity here and so does Universal. I think they've done a better job at accommodating families of 5 or more than Disney has. But I think there's a huge opportunity there for the theme parks to take control back of their guests.
Mm.
And I don't know if we're going to see that or not.
True.
Well, and we've had Christine on here before giving her tours, or a tour update, whatever you want to call it. They're a family of 5. They have 2 daughters and a son, and the 2 daughters who are one's in college, one's in high school. They're a little bit older, obviously. They're in one room. They're with their grade school son in another room.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried to get adjoining rooms, and there's been times where they're like, your room is in this wing, your second room is in the second wing. We're like, no, we need those rooms closer together. And they're like, sorry, that's all that's available.
Yeah.
And they've been burned by that before. And they're like, those were supposed to be adjoining rooms. I'm sorry, they're not available. So that gets very difficult at times when, yes, you trust your daughters, but even at Disney, you want to play it safe.
Yeah.
Right.
You've got to be safe. I don't think it's fair that they should be on the other side like that.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. I agree too.
And it's Darlene, we rented a vacation home down here a few years back. It was through one of Darlene's friends. And I hope they're doing well with it.
They are. They're doing very well. They can barely come down themselves because it's always booked.
Yeah. I forget where I was going with. Oh, yeah. So we know the difference between staying on property and staying off property. And I'm going back to what I had mentioned earlier. You've got young children and you've got 3 or 4 young children, or you're coming down with an extended family of brothers and sisters and their kids and your kids. And you either get adjoining rooms where it becomes too unaffordable, or you upgrade to a deluxe, or you rent DVC points, or you go off property. And if you go off property, you're missing out, but your kids are really missing out on everything goes on. Staying on property from the moment you wake up in the morning to the time you lay your head on that pillow for a few seconds before you go back to the parks.
Well, the travel time too is killer.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you know what? You're going to save a little bit on food if you have to eat a meal or 2 off property, but you're losing time. And that's the real essential part of your trip, is to be on property as quickly as you can and take advantage of as much as you could possibly do if it's your one trip in God knows how many years. So, I think Disney and like I said, the other theme parks really can swoop in and take advantage of what these other corporations are trying to do, because they've got a distinct advantage over them. They've got the theme park in their backyard or on their property.
Yeah. Well, and Disney certainly wants the guests to have that, we called it immersive feel, or they want the guests to be surrounded by Disney for their entire stay for lots of reasons. They expect they're going to get better revenue from them, but it's also a better brand affinity for them. So the more that they're in the Disney environment, the more that they might be signing up for Disney Plus at home, or watching Disney programs, or buying Disney gifts for Christmas or whatever. So they get a higher brand affinity, I think, if they get them to stay on property.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Go on the cruise line, go on Adventures by Disney, whatever.
Now I'm playing devil's advocate here.
You're pretty good at that.
But Disney seems to be going after the bigger dollars than the smaller dollars. And as a for-profit business, they should be doing that to an extent, but you don't want to leave out a segment of the population that they could bring in and keep the parks a little fuller than maybe some of us that live down here want. But
How are you going to price?
Want everybody, but go ahead, Kurt.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say, how are you going to price a moderate resort that sleeps 5 or 6, and not make it so expensive that it's a deluxe resort?
I know, right? Yeah.
It would have to be a percentage of above what a normal moderate resort room would be, because it's sleeping more guests.
It doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't have to, but Disney, it will be.
It will be, and that was my point.
Yeah.
And I do have an answer to that question we had earlier. And,
Sure.
and in 1971, the average U.S. family size was 3.57. Last year, it was 3.13.
Wow.
So it has.
Who died?
I don't want to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's obviously Disney. I don't think Disney has to make one half of their resort rooms capable of holding 5 people, but there's enough of a demand for it, and as we've been kind of indicating here, and Lottie has shared before, there's not enough of those resort rooms that can handle 5 people.
And Lottie, who's not here tonight, is a perfect example. She has 3 beautiful girls, and Kyle. No, I'm kidding, Kyle. Kyle's great.
Yes,
Kyle's like the best dad ever. And so it's difficult for them. It is finding the right room or rooms and being able to stay on property as often as they want or would like to. I know when they were on the cruise that we went on, what was it? It'll be 2 years in February. They had to get 2 rooms to accommodate everybody. Yeah. Yes, the staterooms on cruise ships are smaller than a moderate or value resort room at Disney, but not that much smaller. So, you don't want to squeeze a family of 5 into a small space like that, unless your kids are like 3 years old. Not 3 years old.
Well,
I think Disney can definitely find the space for it, but then you've got the cost of building a resort like that. How long? And I know what their board of directors is going to be asking the question: how long before we see a return on our investment into such a resort? And if the answer is 10 years from now, it ain't going to get done.
Yeah. Well, I think they also have to ask what is going to change. So do they believe that they're going to be drawing more guests to Walt Disney World, which impacts the experience from being in the parks and them being more crowded? Or do they believe they're going to steal them from other hotels, other vacation rental properties? So I think that figures into it as well.
Yeah. And here's what I think Disney made a mistake some years ago. And I think they're still paying for it. Not to a large extent, but to a very small extent, of not giving incentives to keep people on property.
But they did do that. That was the whole expansion thing. The whole reason why they were doing that, the whole reason why they were bringing people from the airport to the property was to keep them on property.
Right.
And that was what they were doing 10 years ago. That was the reason for all of it.
And the cost has, over the years, has gotten too unaffordable for them to continue it, which is why I think they stopped it, along with Ubers and Lyfts. And
right. There's the demand has gone down. There's plenty of it, but it's not the right balance.
But there are other incentives they could give guests coming to Walt Disney World to keep them on property. I think the dining plan coming back is one of them. Yeah, go ahead, Darlene. You were going to say something.
Well, okay. So a lot of what we're talking about too. You were talking about the Magical Express, which a lot of my family is very disappointed that that's gone. Very disappointed. And that it came back and that there's a charge. I mean, luckily I'm normally available or Keith is available that we can go and pick up our friends and family. But also the price. I mean, you were talking about going years ago. I remember staying at Port Orleans Riverside for like $159, $169, and that was just in like 2010, 11, 12, 13. So we're talking just 10 years ago, but still it's doubled. The price is like $333 now.
Yep.
And I mean, Port Orleans does have a room, and I don't know how many of them they have. They count it as a 5 sleeper room.
Yeah, it's down in the bayou. That it's half of their resort is the
Yeah.
bayou section, and those have that sleeper. That's the
Yeah.
area I was talking about.
Yeah. But those are the ones that are like $300 and some dollars.
Yeah.
At that price, you know, a night, you're talking, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I think we do have to remember, though, the price of hotels in general is up everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, right now, if somebody asked me, and we could, I don't want to get into it because we could actually do a whole show on this. Would you rather spend money on a vacation where you have to fly and stay in a resort and buy your own meals, go to Walt Disney World, or go on a cruise? Where are you getting your best value? For me, I know what the answer is, but I don't want to get into it tonight because I think that would be a good show topic down the road. And John will prove me wrong when I say it's one of them.
I had to look it up because I didn't know either. So
Look up what?
And that's going to depend on the
Oh, the
size
stats,
of the
yeah.
family.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't know either.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, everything we just talked about is going to depend on the size of your family,
Mhm.
on where
Yeah.
you're getting the best value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because on a cruise, and again, we don't need to talk about it now, but on a cruise, you're paying every person versus if you're staying at Disney, you don't have to, you can get a 5-night room, but only go to the parks for 4 nights and spend one day just exploring the parks.
Mhm.
So you can save money by doing that. But again,
Who does
as
that?
Darlene said, it's much more expensive for the moderate resorts. So even though we all say we need more moderate resorts, it's almost like, no, they've brought up the standard of those value resorts now. We really need more of the value resorts. We need more value resorts
Yeah. Yep.
that people can
Absolutely.
afford. If I'm going down to Florida and not staying at my Disney Vacation Club, it's usually just my wife and I going down for a quick weekend. We're staying at a value resort because we cannot afford to stay at a moderate resort just for 2 people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unless they have the
Very
incentive.
good points, Kurt.
And they've had the incentives this year. And you said, when does Disney give the incentives? They give the incentives when they don't have enough bookings. And that's
Right.
what they've had this year quite a
No,
bit.
but I was
Right.
John. I was talking about incentives that are geared specifically towards keeping people on property and
Yeah.
not letting them, not
I understand.
not allowing them to go off property. But
I understand, but
them.
price is one of those incentives.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
if when Disney sees that there's not as many people staying on property, then that's when they give 20 and 25 and 30% discounts on the rooms.
Oh,
Which
how
is
about-
why they're currently not building any more rooms because they can't fill the ones they have. They can't justify building a new room. If anything, what they need to do is let's completely refresh. The reason why the value resorts are more attractive to us now is it went from 2 full-size beds to they now have 2 queen-size beds in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's much more attractive to us than what was there. 2 full-size beds, my wife and I would be sleeping in separate beds.
Mhm.
It's just not comfortable. We'd be sleeping on top of each other. So being able to get, and they were able to fit in there a little bit narrower, but they can get those 2 queen beds in there. Well, it's 1 bed and it's 1 trundle bed that falls down over the top of the table, but you still have 2 full queen-size beds in there for sleeping 4 people comfortably. As long as they're not 2 6-foot brothers that kick each other all night long. That's why we do it
you know, when my kids were little, so I'm going back to the late 90s, we were able to go to Disney and spend 10 days and do each park. Actually, we'd do 3 of the parks. We'd spend 2 days in 3 of the parks. And Animal Kingdom was usually the park where we spend 1 full day. And we were able to run around on one day and take our time the next. And it wasn't blowing the bank up by staying, whether it was a value or moderate resort. You could actually afford to do all that. And I'm not blaming Disney for this because everything everywhere has gone up like out of control. But it's a shame because what became a once every couple of year trip, then an annual trip. If I was raising my kids now, I don't know if I could go more than once every 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, that's it. Because I mean, if you look at a package, for that sleeper with tickets, it's roughly about, and I put 5 people in. It's about $5,800.
Yeah.
And that was our trip down to Florida with the rental car, with airfare, and all the food. And now we're just talking about tickets in a hotel room.
Yeah, tickets in a hotel room.
Yeah, it's great. And that doesn't even include the extras that you're going to need to spend to have a better vacation.
And this
Right.
I'm planning this trip out. It's in May, so it's not. If it was now, forget it. You probably wouldn't even. You wouldn't want it during the holidays.
No. You know what? I always tell people, don't come here during Christmas because it's crazy here, and nobody listens because they all come.
Hey, it's when people have.
I know it's when kids are from school.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
I was at Disney Springs this weekend, and we went yesterday. It was, I think, like 1:00 in the afternoon, and it was crowded. It was really crowded at Disney Springs.
Yeah, I've heard Disney Springs has been very crowded lately.
This
More
is
so
a
than
crazy
usual.
time of year.
Yeah, people are out getting gifts for Christmas.
And they just started the tree stroll. A lot of people
Black Friday, they were having Black Friday sales.
Yeah.
Now, is it me or did anybody else think that this year's Black Friday deals were like one of the worst ever? Some of the worst ever?
I got a few good deals.
Depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah,
too.
I got a few good deals too. Yeah.
I didn't even look.
There were a couple of good deals. I ended up getting a couple things, and I passed on others because 3 weeks ago I remember sending something to my son showing him there was something we were looking at. It was $2 cheaper 3 weeks ago at Target than it was on sale at Target on Black Friday.
Wow. Well, and I'm shocked that Disney already sent out a thing for Cyber Monday. Today's only Sunday.
Everyone's doing that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I bought my family gifts already too with the Cyber Monday.
Black Friday deals
It means
went
nothing anyways because we literally went into the store today and we're buying Cyber Monday deals in the store.
In the store.
And that's not what cyber means.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And Black Friday deals went up a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah, it's all spread out. It's
BJ
changing
started
the
on
model.
the 17th.
Yeah, now Disney had something this year that was great for Black Friday for those who wanted to purchase Disney Plus and Hulu. I think it was just what is it, $2.99 a month for a year? And I think Hulu itself was 99 cents.
99 cents. That was my renewal.
Yeah.
I
So
know.
they did something, but how about do a Black Friday like the cruise lines do? How about do a Black Friday for guests that want to book resort rooms? Do something like that. Pick your slower times of the year and put your discounts on those, periods of time, maybe a little bit more, a couple of percentage points. Give somebody else an incentive to book.
Did we get an annual pass email?
I didn't get my annual pass email this year when I had a oh no, I did. I'm sorry, I take that back. I did. When I had it right now.
Trying to see if
I didn't see any specials for DVC. I didn't even see a Happy Thanksgiving email for DVC.
I'm gonna try to look and see if I can find anything.
That's because, Kurt, that's because there's no thanks if you're not giving.
Well, that's why they want you, is they want to thank you, and we're giving you a discount on buying more points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I anyway, getting back on topic, I do believe Disney can do something if it's necessary. I just think right now, because of the economy and where they're looking to generate their dollars from, they're not paying a lot of attention to people who have the larger families. They're basically saying you're going to come anyway. So if you don't stay here, you don't stay here.
No,
But-
they're saying if you're going to come anyways, you're going to get 2 rooms.
Yeah, or that, yeah. But that's why I think you're seeing a lot of these corporations building all these vacation homes down here, and I think they're oversaturating the market, and I don't know if it's going to be overnight. It won't be overnight, rather. I don't know if it'll be 5 years from now or 10 years from now. I think you're going to see a lot of those vacation rentals disappear.
This started back in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
and then when the economy tanked in 2008, there were a lot of shells that were up that are just abandoned shells.
Oh,
That now they're going in and they're actually starting to build
Yep.
those shells.
Well, that was art of animation for the longest time.
Right, that
Correct.
was, yeah.
it was.
Mhm.
And now you've got where the Star Wars whatever you call that building.
The Galactic Cruiser.
Yeah, the Galactic. You've got that abandoned there. I don't think that's big enough for a resort, so to speak, other than what it was. So I don't know if they're going to try to give it a different theming and bring back something similar like a boutique resort, or if they're going to just refurbish
It won't be a resort because of
Yeah, I don't think so.
balconies or anything.
Yeah.
And there's really no windows. I don't think that'll ever be a
No, you
thought.
can put windows in. The rooms are too small, though.
Oh, you've been in them?
No, I know, but I've known people who haven't. I've seen pictures that they've taken. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think what they'll do is they'll probably repurpose the building
Mhm.
so it's not wasted,
Yeah.
which they should do because that was a lot of money for that building.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's if you look at a lot of corporations that have done things over the years, they've got a lot more projects that went into the red than Disney does. Disney rarely makes mistakes. Unfortunately, over the last, I want to say 4 or 5 years, there have been a lot of things that have turned into mistakes, and maybe they wouldn't have had we not gone through the pandemic. But I think that also accelerated some of their plans to generate other income through things like Genie Plus. But we are here. This is where we are here, and it's not just Disney; it's everywhere. So, it's corporations, including Disney, are taking a long, hard look at future investments. Right now, they're in that. Let's see what our books look like at the end of next quarter, rather than let's see what our books are going to look like 10 years from now, or a year from now, even. So.
Right? Exactly.
Yes, there is a need for moderate and value resorts at Walt Disney World other than the DVC resorts. But do you think they're going to keep expanding the DVC resorts as they have been, or do you think that'll slow down the next few years once these projects are done?
I think there's more DVC book. Well, currently, of course, they're building the Jagamba Huge Polynesian resort that kind of blocks the view for some of the standard resort. I think they are going to then circle back and look over near Fort Wilderness on that resort. They're just not doing them all at one time.
Could you see them building a DVC section in Fort Wilderness?
Well, they are building the wilderness cabins right now are starting to be transferred.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So yes.
Yeah, well, they were going to build that Reflections, and they stepped away from it. Like you say, they're working on the Polynesian Tower, but they don't let those ideas just fall off the table.
Right.
They could certainly revisit it. So the location itself must have worked.
Correct.
Mhm.
It's gonna hold the buildings. There's a lot of places around Seven Seas Lagoon where you can't put buildings, like between the Ticket and Transportation Center and the Contemporary.
Right.
Everything just sinks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What I could see Disney doing is I think they're going to continue with the DVC resorts. I don't know if they're going to address, the larger families, because I think they're okay with people staying off property or spending more money to stay on property by getting two homes.
What they're doing, because even with again, what did they do at the Wilderness Lodge? And they did the same thing at Grand Floridian. They retrofit some of the smaller ones, or some of the smaller rooms, combined it, turned it into a Disney Vacation Club,
Mm-hmm.
and then talked the larger families into staying there. Or you could rent that. It's $900,000 a night.
Yep.
But you could get a 2-bedroom at there. And if you think about it, for the price of staying at, if you've got to get 2 moderate resorts, you might as well just do that. So you'll be able to rent that room for the same price you would of 2 moderate resorts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how Disney's pushing it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Do I think
Because
it's
they gave you 35% off on those slow times, like John was talking about.
Yeah, but the slow times are not when kids are out of school. And if you've got young kids, that's not when you're going, unless you pull them out of school. And we don't want to recommend that, do we?
That's even in the summertime, they're doing it.
I know.
So my friends will go down and they'll get that 35% off because we're out of school already. And even though it's crazy right now, give it a week. It's not going to be very crazy.
Yeah,
there are people that just don't care. They'll pull their kids.
We found a good time to go to Disney was and we were going all the time. I mean, all over the place. But we found August, like the last half of August, was always a good time because here in Florida, they're back in school. A lot of different parts of the country are back in school. The Northeast at the time, which is where we lived, was not in school yet, so it made it easy for us, and the parks weren't as crowded.
Mm-hmm.
It's also 103 in the shade at that time.
You want to know something? We found July to be hotter than August whenever we went in July. It was always hotter than August.
We always found that August was the hottest.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason we go in June. It's still walking on the sun, but it's the dark spot of the sun. It's not the hottest spot.
So weather-wise, now's the perfect time to go to Disney. But crowd-wise, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we've been down there at Thanksgiving time. We've had it where we bought an annual pass, and because we knew the way we were able to book, we'd be able to go back down a second time. And we're like, oh, you know what? We're down here. Let's take one day and go over to the parks. And it's just, my wife said never again. And this was, when did we do that? 2013, 2015, somewhere in there, where it was crazy, but it's not stupid crazy like it is right now.
Oh, 2006. I'll never forget this trip. It was probably my favorite trip for a bunch of different reasons. When we used to travel down to Disney with the kids, it was Jersey Week, which is the first week in November. All the schools in New Jersey are closed for 2 or 3 days during the week. None of the kids go to school. They all come to Walt Disney World. And in 2006, Food and Wine wasn't as popular as it is now. So the park was empty. It was just the only people that were there were from Jersey. Well, not only people there from Jersey, but there were a lot of people there from Jersey, not many from other places. And it was great because every ride was a walk-on. Restaurants, no problems getting reservations anywhere. Although we did them in advance, but we got everything we wanted for the times we wanted. It was a great trip because we had the parks to ourselves, pretty much. I mean, you didn't have it to yourselves, but it was like us and a few friends. Let's put it that way.
And now Jersey Week is crazy.
Oh my God, it's nuts because everybody comes down.
I think we came one year, right?
And there's also a marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we came 1 year, a week after Jersey Week. And it was very nice. It was just Keith and I, and we got on so many different rides. It was ridiculous. We were like, oh, if we could come this time, we would go all the time.
Well, Disney figured out if you come down after the week after Labor Day, they figured out how to book the parks up. Same thing in November. It's just
the whole year. They
Whole year.
they have between festivals and running events and promotions. They have ways to make it in demand all year long.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. It's just, and I just think everywhere you go, pricing, it's corporate greed has gotten out of hand, and it's. I don't want anybody to think that I'm blaming Disney for any of this. I'm not. It's everywhere. You know, people are trying to make back all the money they lost during COVID, and it's us, the consumers, that are paying the price.
Yeah.
And Disney's included in that group. And yeah, they're a small part of that because when you look at all the corporations, they're all doing it. No matter where you go. You go to the supermarket, you see it every time you walk in that supermarket. You go to a big box store, it's there. You know, it's crazy how prices have doubled and tripled on some things over the last couple of years. I think it'll slow down sooner than later now as the further we get away from 2020.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, as we've kind of been discussing here, it's probably not the right time to go put up. Kurt was saying it's not the right time to go start a new resort,
Mm-hmm.
you know, until there's the demand is going to be met because the prices are, you know, within reach of enough people.
See, and that's where
more people.
And that's where I disagree. And I don't think your thinking is wrong. I think your thinking is perfectly correct. But I think Disney should take that chance, build the resort, so when it's time for the people to occupy that resort, it's there.
Yeah.
But that means putting money into a future investment that you could have allocated elsewhere.
I think they could go either way on it. And I
Mhm.
think in the past they have gone both ways on it.
I look at it this way. They've had some. Why would you take a Grand Floridian resort and rather than building more DVC, why are you converting regular rooms to DVC? When they do that, they're generating money because people are buying those DVC resorts.
That's right.
Why are they doing that? Because the resorts weren't being used to begin with as much as they thought they should be.
Because
So why would they be building another new resort if they're already converting a lot of these resorts to the Disney Vacation Club to try to get more people towards that resort? Does that make sense?
It does, but I think you're going after a different sector of the population by building a moderate and value resort. You're not going after the same people that are going to stay at the Grand Floridian or purchase DVC.
But again, like I said before, I think they also have to determine who's going to fill those rooms. Is it going to be guests that are staying off property and they're going to move them on property? Or are they do they think that they're going to increase the number of people that they have coming into the parks? And if so, how are they going to manage that extra volume in the parks?
The fifth park.
What's the number one reason that people aren't staying on park and they stay off park? For us, it was always the price.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're building a new resort, I promise you the prices of that are not going to be cheaper. They're going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
So it's kind of not working to the benefit of what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Now, Kurt,
They have to have a way to pull people in there. And if price isn't it, they've got to have something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kurt, when your kids were younger, and I think just like Micah, we didn't even think about staying off property. There was no way that was happening.
When my kids were younger, prices were much more affordable.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could stay at a moderate resort for $150.
Yeah.
We could stay at a value resort for $89.
That's true.
Now that value resort is $210 and the deluxe is $375. That's it. The prices got ridiculous.
Yeah.
It just did. So you're trying to get more people on property, lower your prices of your resort rooms. After COVID, every room in that park on Disney property shot up by $100. I could not believe the prices to spend $900 to stay in a room, $700 to stay in a room. I'm not exaggerating. When my kids were young, we stayed at the Wilderness Lodge for $210 a night. The Wilderness Lodge.
Mhm.
That's a $500 to $700 room now, at least. $500 when you get the discounts.
Yeah.
So you're not going to. The reason why the people aren't coming to a Disney resort is because the price got astronomical, and I've got a family of 5, and I need to get 2 resort rooms. I can't afford to do it. Again, if you built something like another value or a moderate resort that actually was affordable, that I could sleep a family of 5 or 6 in, then maybe I would consider coming to that resort. So we switched in 2007. We bought Disney Vacation Club. For us, it was the right time. At that time, my kids were 7 and 5. If it was nowadays and I didn't have that, we wouldn't be going every year. And this is coming from someone that hasn't missed a year since '95.
Yeah. You know what, Kurt, I agree with everything you said. And I think with not just Disney, but all these companies, corporations, businesses, whatever you want to call them, they're going to continue to keep raising the prices where they can if people continue to pay for them. The only way to stop it is if you stop buying that product. So if Disney, like, you know, we're seeing now, the resort rooms are not filling up.
Right.
People are staying off property. If they want those resort rooms to fill up, they've got to lower the prices. What they're doing is, and that, you know, I don't have the facts to prove this or anything. It's just what I think. And what do I know? They're converting a lot of rooms to DVC because it's generating that quick dollar for them.
Mm-hmm.
But over the long haul, would they make more money if they were renting them out by night, week, you know, a couple of weeks for guests to stay at, or are they going to make it from DVC?
Disney Vacation Club is not 100% always booked available. They always leave a good 15% that they say is so that if there's something that needs to be worked on, they can work on it. And what they're actually doing with that 15% is they're renting it out. So yes, they converted some of those rooms to make a bigger room. However, they're now renting them.
Mhm.
You, John Q. Public, rent them at a 35% discount when it, like right now when it's crazy and no one wants to go, you know, they can't book the room, so they're giving you a 35% incentive instead of a 30% incentive. So you have a 30% incentive to go and stay at Grand Floridian. But hey, if you book this other room, it'll be a 35% off for the Disney Vacation Club version of it, which might be a little bit more expensive than the standard deluxe resort.
But you're
But
getting
you're sometimes getting twice as much of a room.
Yeah. And that's important to a lot of people, especially people with larger families.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know what I was going to say.
Well, even the DVC isn't the answer. There are 1-bedroom. Again, we just went through all this because every time we're booking, where do we want to stay? We have to have a room that sleeps at least 5. We would prefer 6, so that each person gets their own bed for my 2 boys and my sister.
Oh, I know what I wanted to say. Go ahead.
I cannot book a standard 1-bedroom resort at Beach Club or Wilderness Lodge or a lot of the original ones because they actually only sleep 4. You can get a studio villa that'll sleep 5. However, the other ones will only sleep 4.
Yeah, I remember what the point was that I was going to make. And I'm going to use the analogy of an employer. An employer decides, you know what, we're going to give you a very small salary increase this year. Your salary increase stays with you as long as you stay with that company. And we're going to give you a larger bonus instead. Well, guess what? If they had a good year, you get a large bonus. If they have a bad year, you get a much smaller bonus. So the bonus can go away. And that's what Disney's doing with these discounts. Rather than lower the room rate, you know, just across the board to get people to fill them up, they're throwing in these discounts. So if times get good where they can fill them up at the price they want, that price is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little it does benefit those who take advantage of the discounts, but is it working? I don't know the answer to that. I guess
lot
the
of the
answer
rooms
is
that
that
you book
it's
at those-
not.
They don't book every room at the discount. They set aside
It's a certain
They-
number, right?
a quarter of the rooms, a third of the rooms, something like that.
Yeah, it's-
And once those rooms are gone, and they're not. They may or may not add more rooms to it. It's kind of like how many people are they going to allow to go into the Magic Kingdom? Here, book your day, make your reservation. Oh, you know what? There's a high demand for the Magic Kingdom. We're going to bring over 500 more employees because there's not a high demand at Animal Kingdom on that day. So those extra employees are going to come over, and we're going to increase the amount of people that come into the Magic Kingdom. Same basic thing.
Yeah. We haven't discussed because I don't know. It's beyond my pay grade, which is.
We don't get paid.
But what's the upkeep for each room? Because you're paying employees to clean the rooms. You're taking care of the maintenance on the rooms, the staff that goes into the resorts. Salary increases have gone up a little bit, not as much as the cost of the rooms, but that factors into the price they charge too.
They're not cleaning the rooms every day anymore unless you ask them to do it. Disney Vacation Club, they only clean the room every third or fourth day. The only thing they do is they come in and they check and they get your garbage out. They may get your garbage every day. I don't even know if they're doing that all the time.
Yeah.
So, and that was for a whole completely other reason. We won't get into that today.
Right.
But they don't clean the rooms every day. Because I know when my wife and I stayed down there for an extended stay and at a Value Resort, and we had gotten food and our garbage was full. We had to go and search out a garbage can because over the course of 2 days, they never came and cleaned out our garbage.
Yeah, we get them. Yeah, go ahead, Darlene.
I know when we were at Vero, they cleaned our room. No, not cleaned it, but just took the garbages out because we were only there for the 4 days, which 4 days is the layover. But I thought for sure that they would come in and change the garbages, and they didn't. Not every day.
Yeah, they weren't doing it they're not doing it at Vero. They're doing it in they're doing it at Walt Disney World. And a lot of it has to do with an incident that happened in Vegas without going into detail. Basically, it's a quick walkthrough of your room to make sure your room is safe.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there that they can see that you're going to hurt somebody.
Right.
It's all the details we need to go into.
I see nothing wrong with them keeping extra bags for garbage in the room for guests and letting guests put the garbage in front of their door when they leave for the day and let them come along and pick it up.
Exactly.
And that's just a quick, simple solution. It's not perfect because somebody could kick it, the wind could blow it, but on a normal day.
That's really not what I want to see as I'm walking down my hallway in the middle of my
and that's why
$900 a night resort.
And that's why Disney hasn't done that.
But if you have a lot of, garbage, I guess you could call down and say, I need a garbage change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, you always can do that. Yeah.
But some people don't, if somebody might be napping or something and don't want to be disturbed,
Yeah.
My son woke up in the middle of the night with a bloody nose. We had to get the sheets changed out. They were there within a half hour.
Try that today. It might take more than a half an hour. Anyway, I think we've exhausted this topic because we keep getting off topic. So I think we all agree there is a need for it, but it's not going to happen. And they're going to let these.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
I can see them retrofitting some of the standard rooms now, converting those rooms like they did with Art of Animation, so that it's not just they turn those into, they were supposed, well, I don't know if I call a value suite $400 like they did for the value Art of Animation to sleep six people. That was ridiculous. They doubled the price of that room.
Yeah.
It's still a value resort. They didn't need to raise the price that much.
Yeah.
Well, what prices did need to be raised as much as they have been? None. Yeah.
I could go more into that, but then again, we'll be aware.
We've had that discussion so many times.
Yeah.
We have. All right. that is going to do it for us this week. Although I do want to mention one more thing. We're doing the show obviously on a different day and night because of the Thanksgiving holiday. I hope everybody had a great and wonderful Thanksgiving. We will be back at a regular time later this week, recording that is. So look for another show towards the middle end of this week, and then we're taking a week off. So until then, everybody be safe, be yourself. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
And when you're going out and looking for those rooms, to try to keep the price down, I think what you need to do is look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Maybe you keep the price down. and hopefully you forget about your worries and your strife until you come back and see us next week. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Good night.
Have a magical night. Stay safe and contact your MEI and Mouse Fan travel agent. She might be able to save you some money for that trip if you're flexible too.